Hey guys, all right, we're going to go ahead and read the next chapter of Masterminds. We're going to read chapter 21, and this one is from Malik's perspective. All right. My mother is the only ballet teacher in Happy Valley, and she has only one student, Laska, which is Amber. Since there aren't any other dances around, Amber can never be in a real ballet, so every now and then, Mom holds a recital. I look forward to these recitals with the kind of dread most kids reserve for having their teeth drilled when the dentist from Dallas comes to town. About 20 people pack in my living room to see her do a bunch of stuff with French names. It's about as happening as watching grass die. The only entertainment value is making fun of Amber in a tutu, which never works since Laska hasn't got the brains to be embarrassed by being seen in a tutu. Naturally, my mother thinks Amber is the cat's pajamas. She's a lovely girl, she always says. Trust me, the night my toe got so swollen that the nail came off and Dad made me soak my foot in the salt water for an hour and a half, I wasn't thinking such a lovely girl. But the main reason it drives me nuts that Mom is Laska's #1 fan is that lovely girl is just at the polar opposite of me in this place. She takes ballet and piano and volunteers for everything under the sun. For me, it's a point of personal pride to work as little as humanly possible, and even then, I try to contact her into doing most of that for me. She gets great grades and is a model student while I just barely squeak by. The biggest difference between Amber and me is that she's Serenity's biggest fan, the whole cheerleading squad all by herself. Until now. On the long day after that very long night, she makes the quickest U-turn in town history. When she reads the webpage on Project Osiris, she looks like she's about to eat Eli's iPad in sheer rage. Quiet, Tori advises nervously. We don't want the purples on our necks. So Amber calmly clamps her hands onto the factory fence and squeezes until blood from her fingers begins to trickle along the chain links. Some girls can't handle learning their clones, I guess. And that other stuff, like your parents being strangers and your entire life being a lie, takes all 4 of us to pull her off the fence. When we let go of her, she sinks into a cross-legged position on the grass. Instead of finishing the sentence, she lashes out a sneakered foot and crushes a grasshopper, twisting it into the ground. And I'm the toxic element? I wonder if anybody ever thought about weeding out Laska. How about we just bounce instead, I suggest. Our parents, they're not going to get away with this. The amazing part is that her cheerleading doesn't stop. What's new that instead of being for the town, she's now against it. Suddenly she hates Happy Valley as much as she loved it before. It almost doesn't matter how she feels, just how much. Hey, I'm not complaining with her. I'm with her 100%. This might be the first thing we've agreed on in 13 years. Seriously, though, I sympathize with her. The stuff that we've been gradually learning about ourselves over weeks is hitting her all at once. Talk about a shock to the system. Especially since a good chunk of it makes about as much sense as Arth W Gen. Remember, that was the letters that they could see when they broke into the factory, and they haven't really figured out what that means yet. In a matter of hours, her entire world has been turned upside down, and most of the details are still a mystery. I know you're angry, Eli, please, but we were just as upset when we found out. But you have to act normal. If you start accusing your parents, you'll be giving up one advantage we have. They don't know that we know. She's quiet again, but still stubborn. I don't care. The point is, I insist, here in town, our folks call the shots. Our only chance of having real lives is by busting out. That's what we have to work toward. There's no other way to fight this. The toxic element trying to reason with the ball of fury. She clenches her jaw. How about we heave a brick through every window in town? Think they'll get the message then? We stare at her in shock. It's so obvious. You're upset and you lash out and break something. I wonder who she's cloned from. Whoever it is must be someone whose bad side you want to stay away from. It's easy to fix a few windows, Hector notes. Laska's eyes narrow. How about a whole factory? Come to think of it, I'm starting to like her style. Eli shakes his head. Doesn't make sense. It would just tip our hand that we're onto them. Then they'd have the 5 of us on happy pills, not just me. Who knows how long it would take us to figure all this out again, assuming we ever do. Even Amber has to accept that. She's starting to calm down. I can almost feel her fury morphing into grim determination. Fine, we escape. But we come back later to get justice for everything that's been done to us. If I get out of here, Hector says, I'm never coming back, not even direct the place. Aren't we getting a little ahead of ourselves to ask? We're not going anywhere until we figure out a way through the invisible fence. Excuse me for taking that a little bit more personally than the rest of you guys. You know, with Serenity Day coming and probably Weeding Day right after that, that shuts everybody up in a hurry. Nothing commands attention like being first on the chopping block. We can't be sure exactly what Project Osiris has in mind for me, but it's hard to imagine it being anything good. Well, Tori muses, what is it about us that we get so sick when we come up against the barrier? Randy didn't. Our parents don't. And workmen from outside have to pass through and they come and go. Why aren't they affected? Regular people aren't made in a lab, Eli explains. When we were born, the scientists must have put something inside us, some kind of antenna or receiver that reacts to a signal in the barrier. If you don't have the chip or whatever it is, you don't even know the obstacle is there. But if you do, well, just think back to last night. Like an invisible dog fence for clones, I put in. How can you joke about this, Amber challenges. There's something inside us like a spider crawling around our heads and we can't reach it and get it. It's not alive, Tori soothes. Might as well be. It's controlling us, putting a giant wall between us and everywhere else. We're getting too emotional about this, warns Eli. We have to think like scientists. Those are the people who settled this up. The barrier must be some kind of wireless signal, and a wireless signal can be turned off. I finish this thought, so the trick is to figure out what's generating it. That becomes job number one, identifying the source of the barrier that's keeping us in Happy Valley. I'm actually kind of optimistic. When the whole town is the size of the average cow pie, there isn't much ground to cover, especially when you consider we're looking for something like an antenna or a transmitter, probably high up. Serenity isn't much higher than a cow pie either. The highest points in town are 1, the antenna on the roof of the plastic works, 2, the clock tower in front of the town hall, and 3, the aerial on top of the flagpole in the park. Using his iPad, Eli takes a picture of all 3, and we start checking our photos against similar images online. Turns out that the one in the factory, which I was betting on, is purely a receiver. That must be where the real internet comes from. The web that we're allowed to have, plus our TV and radio, all come from Serenity cable. The flagpole seems to be a classic cell phone transmitter receiver with a very limited range, probably town only. The clock tower is the biggest bust of all. There's nothing up there but clock. Amber has a brainstorm. Do you think it could be the Serenity Cup? Or maybe the case or the pedestal it stands on? I think she might be onto something. Seriously, what other purpose could that hunk of junk serve? It certainly didn't come from Roosevelt, who was dead half a century before Felix Hammerstrom and the billionaire lady got the bright idea to invent Happy Valley. So, the next stop is to the park to investigate the Serenity Cup. That is not as easy as it sounds, since Rump L. Stillskin, or some other purple, is sitting in the factory staring at a bunch of video screens, one of which is a live feed from a camera trained right on this wonderful trophy of ours. Tori comes up with the idea to play monkey in the middle so we can fall over it for a closer look. The purples may not get a very high opinion of our frisbee skills, but with any kind of luck they won't notice that we're searching for hidden antenna with electric wiring or listening for a power sound. But here's the thing. Turns out the Serenity Cup is about as electric as a loaf of bread. No vibration, no heat, no hum. It's the deadest thing in town, which is saying something when you're talking about Happy Valley. I channel my disappointment into a vicious tackle on Hector, driving him into the grass with my full weight. I can tell he's really worried about me because he swallows any word of complaint as he lies there, gasping to regain his breath. I can't believe it's come to this. I'm being pitied by Hector Amani. He's limping as we straggle out of the park, so it's just a trophy. I've got a theory about that, Eli muses. I think it's a kind of an early warning system. The whole purpose of Osiris is to see if we go bad because we're clones of terrible people. So they leave that big silver cup totally unprotected to see which one of us is going to be the first to steal it. Like I want it, I say sarcastically. Hector brings us back to Earth. So what do? We've eliminated a bunch of things that aren't the transmitter, but we still don't know what is. We hear a familiar roar and a cone truck drives by on Harmony Street. It's not the one with Hector's blood. I've learned to pick out the crusty brown stains from halfway across town. Then I see it. I'm pretty sure it's always been there, but there's so much to question about the cargo that we never bothered to look at the truck itself. There is a small rotating satellite dish about 2 feet in diameter on the roof of the cab. I pinch Eli hard. Ow! Do other trucks have those? He rubs his arm. I don't think so. The one I bled on definitely doesn't, puts in Hector. Amber speaks up. I always figured it was like a GPS or something. Why would you need GPS in a truck that rides around in circles and never leaves town? Asks Eli. I grin. You wouldn't, unless your GPS isn't a GPS. So maybe they figured it out. Alright guys, that's the end of chapter 21.